All right, dentists, let's talk about one of the most important yet counterintuitive principles for building a successful, long, fulfilling, and genuinely happy career in our profession. It's the principle of embracing discomfort. Now, here's the paradox of a dental career. The moment that everything becomes comfortable, easy, and routine for you as a dentist is often the exact moment that you start to burn out, lose your passion, and stop being fulfilled. You're on autopilot. But on the other hand, the moment you have so much discomfort in your profession that you are constantly full of anxiety and stress, you will also come to hate dentistry and completely burn out. So if both of these extremes are true, how in the world do we build a successful, fulfilling career? The key is, the secret is to find ways to continually and intentionally push yourself so that you remain slightly uncomfortable. You and only you can gauge what that sweet spot of discomfort is and what it feels like. Today, we're going to dive into why so many of us run from discomfort, how that avoidance pattern shrinks our skills and our potential, and most importantly, I'll give you a roadmap of practical ways that you can start to embrace healthy, productive discomfort. My goal is to help you rewire your brain to see these challenges not as threats, but as opportunities for growth, which will make you more resilient, more profitable, and a happier, more engaged dentist. I see so many dentists who, instead of embracing some level of productive discomfort, make it their primary mission to make an uncomfortable feeling go away immediately. They have a difficult patient interaction or maybe a tricky root canal that doesn't go perfectly, and what's their reaction? They don't like that feeling of failure or stress, so their immediate subconscious objective is to never do that thing again, so they never have to feel that specific discomfort again. And just like that, they stop doing all root canals. Maybe it's a difficult surgical extraction, or an implant procedure that had a complication, or any one of a wide variety of things that are just a little bit outside their comfort zone. The moment something happens where that discomfort level gets a little too high, their brain's defense mechanism kicks in and they stop and vow to never do that procedure ever again. Another common one is sedation. I know numerous dentists who had one experience that wasn't great. Maybe it was a minor medical emergency or they just didn't feel fully in control of the sedation, and their answer was to stop offering it forever. Now, I completely understand that reaction on a human level, but here's the problem. In dentistry, the only way you become truly successful and build a valuable, resilient practice is if you have a very wide skill set and you can confidently handle lots of different situations. And the only way to get to that point is to embrace a state of continual, manageable discomfort with what you are doing. You need to rewire your brain so that if you feel too comfortable, if your work feels too easy and too straightforward every single day, that feeling should actually make you a little bit nervous. It should be a warning sign that you are not progressing and that you are not pushing yourself, that you are stagnating. So let's talk about some of the practical ways that you can consistently and intentionally push yourself into that productive discomfort zone. First, and this is the more obvious one, is learning a new clinical procedure. This is a great way to push yourself. You should be continually looking for ways to expand your clinical offerings, but embracing discomfort isn't just about adding brand new services. A second and often overlooked area is to push yourself on the speed and efficiency side of things. I see very few established dentists who are ever actively trying to push themselves to get faster over time. Once they settle into a routine, they get comfortable with their procedure times and they stop pushing. You don't see them methodically working to shorten those times year after year. You don't see them challenging themselves by adding additional doctor chairs or another hygiene chair to their workflow to see if they can handle a little bit more volume efficiently. That's super unfortunate because this is a fantastic way to push yourself and to grow, to discover that you can handle a little bit more than you're used to or than you used to be able to. A third way to embrace discomfort is to push yourself in your communication and conversational skills, especially as it relates to case acceptance. For so many dentists, a huge point of discomfort is talking to patients about money and closing treatment. They are so uncomfortable talking about finances that they get into the room and they quickly diagnose the work and then get out as fast as they can. This leaves the entire financial conversation and the critical task of closing the case to the team, which is almost never going to be as effective as it would be if the doctor took more ownership. So another way to push yourself is to take a much larger, more active role in closing treatment. Why not be the one to ask your patient if they have a budget they need to stick with? Why not be the one to ask them to commit to an appointment right there in the chair? Why not push the envelope a little bit further throughout that closing process? These are fantastic ways to push yourself into a zone that might feel uncomfortable at first, but it will yield huge results. Now, a fourth area is through systems and delegation. For many of you doctors who have been practicing for a long time, I bet there are nagging problems or inefficiencies in your practice that have existed for 10 or more years. And it's just become easier for you to personally deal with them or work around them than it is to go through the uncomfortable process of creating a system and delegating the solution to your team. So why not push yourself? Why not try to delegate something new this month? Why not finally solve a problem that you've been tolerating for years? That is a fantastic way to push yourself and grow as a leader and as a business owner. If that list isn't enough and you're still trying to find a way to push yourself, here is a powerful exercise. Sit down with a blank piece of paper and do a brainstorming exercise. Think about all the things that you do not like about your dental practice or the profession. Or think about the things that constantly cause you stress and anxiety or fear. Write them all down. And once you have that list, choose just one of those items to tackle head on this month. The goal is to intentionally put yourself in a position of a little more discomfort. And I promise you, every time you put yourself in one of these positions and you work your way through that discomfort, you will come out the other side and you'll be happier, better, and much stronger for it. Now, let's take a real world example. Maybe you are scared to death of Google reviews. You live in dread of the day a bad review comes in. You know that when it does, you'll have to look at it and it will absolutely destroy your week. This is a very real fear for dentists. If you're in that situation, why not take Google reviews head on? Why not create a system where after you finish treatment for a patient you had a great connection with, you personally ask them how their experience was and if they'd be willing to share that experience in a review so other people could hear about it. The more you proactively engage with the very thing you fear, the more control that you take, the less that fear will have a hold over you. It will begin to disappear. Here's another example. Maybe you're terrified of your key employees quitting and dealing with the chaos of that problem. Well, you might not be able to solve that issue forever, but one thing you could do is to take control. You could start doing consistent one-on-one meetings with each member of your team every single month. Don't be afraid of them quitting and do nothing about it. If every month you're proactively asking your team members how they are doing and what you could do to help make their job better, you will understand how they feel and you'll be able to help them. Someone still might quit, but at least this way, you'll know that you've done everything you can and you'll have a heads up if someone is becoming dissatisfied and you'll still be in some control. And I promise you, way fewer people will quit if you do this than if you just bury your head in the sand and only focus on the clinical work. Now, you have to be the gauge of what the right amount of discomfort is. If you feel like something is too much, that is, it's creating overwhelming anxiety, then you need to dial it back or break it down into smaller, more manageable chunks. I do not want you to live in a state of constant high-level anxiety and stress because that's not productive either. There comes a point where anxiety and stress consume you and decrease your ability to live your life, and that is not where we want to be. But what you will find is that if you stop the habit of running from discomfort and you begin to intentionally live with a little bit of productive discomfort, your job will become so much better and more fulfilling. You'll be happier. And the interesting thing that happens is that you become much more emotionally resilient. It's just like lifting weights. If you never work out and then you go to the gym and do 5 sets of bench press, you're going to be in a world of pain for days. But if you work out consistently, doing 5 sets of bench press will feel good and you won't really be that sore afterwards. Living with a little discomfort in your profession is exactly the same way. If you're always running from discomfort, then when something truly bad or uncomfortable happens in your practice, and it will, you'll freak out, maybe have an anxiety attack, and it will really hurt your life. However, if that same negative stressor happens and you've been consistently exercising your discomfort muscle, you will be able to deal with it much more effectively and it won't be nearly as big of a deal. The reality is that running a business, a dental practice, and working clinically is full of many potential stressors. There is simply no way to avoid them all. The only thing that you can do is to get good at dealing with this discomfort and the stressors. And I promise you, if you do this over time, you will be able to handle the challenges of our profession in a way that does not negatively affect you. In fact, you may even start to enjoy the challenge and get a sense of pride and confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. This is the only way to be truly successful and have a long, happy career as a dentist. If you're going to run from a feeling of discomfort, you will likely have a very stressful and painful career. So take what you learned today about embracing discomfort and start looking for small ways to challenge yourself this week. Now let's keep working together to make dentistry fun, fulfilling, and rewarding. Subscribe so you don't miss the next strategy, and I'll see you soon.